Most people in life are looking at how do I make a life worth living and a retirement worth having. Unfortunately, in some families of siblings, there are monstrous people who want to take away life from the living. Throughout my adult life, I had a sibling member who just hated my life, and I had another sibling who just was jealous of my life. I thought I had two siblings left that were sort of caring of my life, but one of my last siblings, of course, died when he was 12, and that was his life. I can't say exactly who killed him. I don't know. According to my siblings, it was an accident. I was a baby at the time, and that's okay. But sometimes in jealousy, and sometimes in rage, and sometimes in the, well, lack of technology of the day, children get lost along the way. We're heading into a period of time when parents are stupid. And what I mean by that is that they are foolish. They are completely, utterly, monstrously dumb about heat, sun indexes, and the ability to breathe in a vehicle. When I'm sitting down the way from a pet shop, I recognize that most pet owners take their pups and their cats and whatever else into the shop because there's a vet tech in there to do some things for them. But there are some owners that you see around town that will leave their dog in a car with all the windows up. Not kind, in my opinion. We're heading into higher indexes of heat. There's also stupid parents that are lazy. They will say, well, the baby's asleep, so I'm just going to leave it in the car. I'll be in and out in a minute, and nothing will happen by far. And that's the bullshit they spew to themselves in their laziness and in the fatigue that it takes to pick up a baby carrier and pull it out of a vehicle. What I'm warning parents about at this time of year is not to be stupid around pools, waterways, lakes, and other places. Don't allow other children to babysit your child. It's foolery. Absolute foolery. I was pretty fortunate in that I was a pretty wise kid by the time I was, say, 9, 10, and 11, and I was already sitting other neighbors' kids at that time. The parents weren't going far. They were going off to the store. They also knew that my mom was around behind me evermore, but the truth is that in life, when we have to look at how work is now and how people are now and how liars are much more in America now, that we have to be safeguarding our birth certificates. Parents who have new children, parents who have twins, parents with all sorts of, well, kin, are the ones that are most at risk. And here's what I've seen since I visited a particular place that I didn't ask to go, but my sister thought I should lose some grace and lose my face, as we talk about in Japanese, that literally since then, when a Muslim doctor was in charge, my life has gone absolutely, utterly to the dogs. Now, I can make reference to all kinds of proverbs and all kinds of sayings of America, but it's interesting how God impacts people. It's interesting how God finds people. It's interesting how God interacts between people and animals and lets us know that we're loved. In my life, because of my native Indian leanings and because of my spiritual trainings and because of my total submission to the Lord Most High, for the most part, I've been saved and safe from animals. Yesterday, my warning birds started showing up. I hadn't heard them for several weeks in this area, but God knew that they needed to come. And with 100% accuracy from the city that I came from, and maybe those birds aren't typical native to this space, they started sounding off. And every time they do, I stop whatever I'm doing, however I'm channeling, whatever I'm praying, and I say, God, what's up? And then I get the information of what's about, what's afoot, especially in terms of law enforcement who are liars, thieves, and killers of our lives. When I talk about my life, I cannot believe the turn it's taken. When I talk about my strife, I cannot believe that I'm in this situation. When I talk about my life, I'm trying to remind other people in their lives to remember where their boundaries begin and end. But my whole life pursuit turned upside down when I met the most incredible person of my life. And that person led me, in truth, to meeting the second most incredible person of my life. This does not in any way discount the wife I had for many, many years or the son I had with her across the ages and stages of his life. But I'm accustomed to being greeted in the early morning hours by geese families, if you can imagine, that for whatever reason they start with their sound offs. And I'm not fully awake yet to hear them squawking and talking, but amazingly, what happens after the first couple runner geese or the protective geese or whatever they're called in their troops, and I might need to start studying geese at some point. Literally let the geese families know where I am, and they come a running down the street after me. And it's amazing because I'm meeting brand new families almost every other day. Obviously, on certain weather days, they don't need any help to find food and they don't stay. In other situations, it can be a bloodily hot day and they'll get a little food, but because they're so comfortable with me, they'll run right underneath my feet, some of those goslings. At the same time, the mother and father god will walk right up to me and take food from my hands. Now, sometimes they miss and sometimes they grab some fingers, and that's not necessarily fun. But at the same time, man can be kind and loving to them. I remember talking to a player who said, I want to get a staff like that because so I can bash those geese down. I'm like, why would you do that? They're never going to hurt you. And why would you ever want to do that to God's creature? Unfortunately, we've lost a few. Now here comes another family pushing their goslings around, and openly that's okay because I have a little bit of cookies left for the day. But what I'm talking about is the love of God. And it's amazing to me that no matter where I move myself and where I sleep, there's a brand new family that has been told through geese gossiping, or what I like to call gossiping geese, that I'm around. And they literally find me almost every morning. Now, if that's not humbling to somebody listening, you better fucking believe that God knows me. And you better fucking believe that every time you touch me, God is watching, going, what the fuck are you doing to my son? Because I am probably one of the most submitted guys around. But here's what I can tell you. The woman that I love is off limits to you. And if you don't stop fucking my girl, little man, I am coming for you in every way. You destroyed God's plan for me and her. Now I can say this honestly, and I can tell you truthfully, that there are things and there are people in this world who are shifting their policies because of me, and because I've proven that I have a gift from God, you see. But it's amazing how we start the story with siblings and how they don't want anything to do but the swiping of a man's glory. And I'll tell you that if my property's gone, God will hold you accountable through all eternity. You see, people can lose their rights to heaven in a matter of seconds, or they can lose their rights to heaven in the matter of days, weeks, months, and years from the abuse that they serve up for other people's ears. You see, the liars of a family are the ones that want more, well, anonymity, I suppose, but at the same time, they want more legacy. And maybe they didn't deserve the legacy, maybe they don't have the opportunity, but here's what I know about me compared to them, that if my father assigned me to manage something, I did it. And if my mother needed something, I would do it. But here's what else I know, that my Father in heaven can speak to me and say, your mom is a little confused at the moment. She has a few extra things in the car for you that she forgot to give you. Would you please go back around? So when I still had a vehicle, I would drive back into the place that we met, and she whoppingly bought me a $2 hot dog to show me she loved me. In the meantime, while she spends all kinds of marvelous time with my siblings outside of that. But I have no jealousy because she has the right to decide whether she loves me, and she has the right to decide whether she hates me, and she has the right to decide whether or not she's going to honor my father's legacy or not. But the thing that matters most to me is not that. The thing that matters most to me is the safety of the elderly that we often put down in America and put out of the way. In Asian countries, they don't do that. In Asia, the elderly are still honored. Whether they're loved as much as they should be, I can't say. But I know that in the country that I lived in for a marvelous many years, that the Asian people in the countryside were loved like that. So what I'm telling you is you better start paying attention to your life. You better start paying attention to your wife. But if you chose somebody's wife that doesn't belong to you, you better start praying to God because he's coming for you. And let me tell you, you don't mess with God's plans.